6.7, solving radical equations, last section in chapter 6, and this tends to be a fairly straightforward section. So here we have equations that have radical signs in them, and we're just going to solve them algebraically. We want to solve for x, and it's inside this square root, so we want to reverse that, do the opposite of it, and we would do that by squaring both sides. So square rooting and squaring are opposites. They would cross each other out. So on the left, whatever's inside that square root is now by itself. And on the right, we have 4 squared, which is 16. At this point, we just subtract 25 from both sides, and we get our answer, -9. Number 2, again, we want to get this x by itself. Okay, this time we have that 9 on the same side, okay, but it's not inside that cube root with it. So before we get rid of that cube root, we want to move the 9 to the other side. Okay, so we have the cube root of x equals 8. Once this cube root is all by itself, like it is here, that's when we get rid of that cube root. Okay, so this is really to the 1/3 power. So the opposite of the 1/3 power is raising it to the 3rd power. These are opposites. They cancel each other out. Just the x is left. And over here we have 8 cubed, which gives us our answer. That's pretty much the extent of it. Of course, we can add multi-steps to this, but the main idea is that we always want to get this square root or cube root or whatever root it is by itself. So we move everything away from it before we reverse that root. So just like if this was a 2x minus 3 equals 1, we'd go in reverse order of operations. We would deal with this -3 first. So before we do anything else, let's move this 3 to the other side. Okay, so what I'm saying is that this and this are essentially the same thing. Okay, we're getting rid of the 3's first, and then we're going to get rid of this 2 afterwards. So add the 3. Okay, we end up with 4. Now we want to get rid of this 2. So we have the cube root of x minus 3 equals 2. Now that that cube root's by itself, we cube both sides. These cancel out, and we have x minus 3 equals 2 cubed, which is 8. X equals 11. Okay, same idea in number 4. Subtract that 4, we get 64. Divide by 2 next, we get 32. Okay, so now we have this weird root. It's to the 5/2 power. Okay, and the opposite of the 5/2 power is just the reciprocal of 5/2. So let's raise everything to the 2/5 power. Because if we did that, we'd have to multiply these exponents. 5 times 2 on the top is 10. 2 times 5 on the bottom is 10. And this would end up as x plus 3 to the 1st power. Okay, that's what we want. Okay, so we just take this fraction, we flip it upside down, we raise both sides to the reciprocal there. All right, so these guys cancel each other out. We have this left over on the left, x plus 3 equals 32 to the 2/5 power. Okay, now I rewrote that as the 5th root of 32 squared. Okay, and I did it like that because I can figure out what the 5th root of 32 is. Okay, it's 2. If I actually broke it down, I would see a bunch of 2's. Okay, so 2 squared equals 4, and then subtract that 3 over to get a 1. These are the 2 tricky ones. So in number 5, we have this radical by itself right at the bat. And then on the other side, we have an x plus 3. So we're going to start off by squaring both sides. And when we square the right side, we have to remember that we're not going to make it x squared plus 9. We're going to put in parentheses, and we're going to FOIL it out. Okay, so when we do that, this side cancels out. So you have 10x plus 9. And on the right, we have to do x plus 3 times x plus 3. And we get x squared plus 6x plus 9. Now let's move everything to one side. So I'm going to say minus 10x minus 9. So we end up with x squared minus 4x, and then that 9 canceled. Okay, so it's equal to 0. This we can take out of GCF, which is an x. X times x minus 4 equals 0. And then we can just split it up. x equals 0, x minus 4 equals 0. Solve both of them, and we get 4 and 0 as our solutions. 6 looks way more complicated than it actually is. We have square roots on both sides, which means when we square both sides, both of these cancel out. Okay, and when that happens, we just have 2x plus 6 equals 4x plus 2. Okay, algebra 1 problem here. Okay, so now we just do minus 2x. And we have 2x plus 2 equals 6. Subtract the 2 over, divide by 2, x equals 2.